The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
So guys, thank you for joining us. As I Postecoglou would say, Celtic never stop and the bus never stops. So we are here for a double helping today. We've got the great show with me and the driver himself, and then we've got the big show last week. It was a big hit, the Sunday session. We've got a big day of Celtic content on the Boycie bus.
You know it, Reegan, mate. It's a big day today, man. Sundays are turning into like our go-to day, mate. You know, you kick it off in absolute style, and we finish it in a wee bit of a mess.
Mate, as I Postecoglou said, mate, Celtic never stop, but we never stop, mate. The bus never stops. The bus keeps going.
You're right, Reegan. You're right. The bus does never stop, mate. That's why we love it. That is why we love it, mate. How's you?
I'm doing well, mate. It's nearly 12 and it's nearly 11. Say I'm not hungry, mate. I'm starving for some Boycie bus. I'm absolutely starving, so we're ready to go.
You're not hungry. You're starving. Oh, I love that, mate. I love it. I'm just going to say as well, apologies for the daft hat, but Reegan will testify that I showed him my hair before we went on. I've just took the shower. I went on the screen, I went, Reegan, I can't with my hair like this. No, mate. So I just popped on a wee bucket hat. I hope no one thinks I'm trying to be all trendy and in vogue. It's far from the truth. On you go, mate.
Yeah, so it's been a big week for Celtic. And we've got loads of talking points here, so I'll just get you to bring up the first talking point, Russell, because it's been a big week for Celtic. And Ange Postecoglou, I mean, as Ange says, it's important to get your transfer business done early, and I think that's so important for this summer. The first talking point we've got here is it's so important to strengthen when Celtic are on top, because I think a couple of years ago under Brendan we didn't do that very well. So I think under Ange Postecoglou, I mean, you've seen that Jota is supposed to be signing. You've got the Argentinian left back, and you've also got the Algerian midfielder as well. So I think Ange Postecoglou is well on course to be one of the first managers at Celtic Football Club to have full control, like Brendan Rodgers and Martin O'Neill did back in the day.
Well, yeah, I think there's an element of that. I mean, I think it's through default that Ange has got such control as well. Firstly, because Postecoglou was put in a situation, he was left up shit creek. I mean, if this season had became a disaster, you couldn't really blame him when you look back at it, because he was left on his own. He was left to do all the transfer dealings on his own, Reegan. He was left to do all the coaching with adopted staff, if you like. You know what I mean? That weren't exactly very popular at the time either, Reegan. What's very, very interesting, though, is now Postecoglou's got 2 trophies in the cabinet, you know, and he's shown his transfer record is a pretty high strike rate. I think we'll agree on that, Reegan. Now he goes into this summer with the strongest hand ever, mate. And I think you're absolutely right. What I always try to say on the bus as well is, you have to learn from your mistakes, Reegan. And Celtic have had positions of strength since the turn of the millennium, since the year 2000. Martin O'Neill came in there, hey, Claxon. But since 2000, we've been the dominant side in the country, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you...
Go on.
Sorry, I'm just going to give you an example. We bought a £5 million striker from, I think it was West Ham. Now, Andrew's went and got 3 players for the price of $5 million that are very, very good quality. And Maeda, Rio and Matt Riley. He's got the 3 of them for the price of $5 million.
I think this is what I mean. It's not just his strike rate. You're right to bring that up, actually, because I probably didn't say that. His strike rate, the signings have all been a success, but you're right, Reegan. The bang for the buck that he's managed to achieve is unbelievable. He is bringing in players that are way beyond what the transfer fees that he's paid out are. Again, to me, that further strengthens his hand. If he's turning... You're going?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, this also shows that Andrew's not saying to the board, right, I'm going to spend, like Neil Lennon didn't spend 15 million on 3 players. He's saying, I can bring you 8 players for the price of that. I can go into these old markets. I listened to Ange on Australian radio the other day, and he was saying that it's a possibility over this transfer window that he goes back into Australia. So, and to be honest, Russell, I'm not a big watcher of the A-League, but I'm not imagining that it would cost very much.
Well, that's true. I think what's the most important thing, I get caught up in this sometimes, Reegan, as well, is the fees, to me, are kind of irrelevant at this stage. If Celtic had progressed the way Celtic should have in the last 22 years, Reegan, it wouldn't have took us 19 years to break the Chris Sutton transfer fee record, you know? So obviously fees are one aspect of it. And whilst, yes, Postecoglou's brought in guys that have been £1 million to £2 million and got really, really good value for them, Reegan, I think we also need to go, how many times can you expect that trick to work? I don't think it's fair to go, how many more gems have you got? I think what's really important for the strategy this summer for me, Reegan, right, is Celtic go, who do you want, Ange? And then he gives them his top 5 players. And Ange will build that list, mate, knowing the financial parameters Celtic work upon.
Well, I'm going to give you an example. A guy that is at centre back that's not played all year, Julian, the French player. I think Ange will say to Chris, look, I'm sorry, mate, but we're not going to need him any longer because he's taking up too much wages. And I think Ange will go in the market and be very confident that he can bring in a couple of players for the Chris Julian wage bracket. Would you not agree with that?
I think, as I say, I just hope that there's no focus on the money side of things. For me, Celtic's a very successful operating business, mate. There's cash reserves there anyway, let alone now this summer, for the first time since the 2008-2009 season, Reegan, that the Champions League riches are guaranteed. We don't need to hedge our bets and go, oh, well, we could maybe buy that player, but what if we don't make through the Champions League playoffs? Then that'll be expenditure that we didn't really forecast. This time we know what's coming in, mate. So, we can be brave in the transfer market, but you're going.
I'm going to say a controversial opinion, but that was something that absolutely hated for years, was the fact that so many fans, so many pundits wanted Celtic to wait to spend money. Celtic is a very successful club, as you say, Russell. And why should they wait until they beat AK Athens until they spend money? Like, come on, we need to have a better ambition than that. You know, it was all kind of like, oh well, we'll kind of wait and see if we beat AK Athens and if we beat uh, a different club. And like, what is the point in this? We should be identifying who we want and going and getting them. I'm not saying that Celtic should be spending 10 million quid on every player, but I'm saying that if we are waiting on the club beating AK Athens with O'Donnell at the back and people like Beaton and Barkas and goal, and you know why are we waiting this long to spend money? I think it's something this season as well, Russell, that I think it benefits the club on and off the park so much that I just get so much time now to be the to be so precise in who he wants, because um usually it would be Celtic were going through three qualifiers and seeing how we do it, but now he's got so much time to work with the players and get his message across, and now we can focus on that group stage football.
I think you're right. Now, Reegan, see, for me, there's two sides to this. There's two sides. Celtic, you could say, have been financially very prudent, but also they've not. And I'll tell you why, Reegan. Because, see, a business is meant to make maximum profits, not just rely on losing assets through the business to make your turnover look better or
Yep.
to make cash reserves look better. It should be about maximising profits in areas of the business, right, that bring in additional revenue without it harming your product. Now, I'm sorry, the books look great when you sell Kieran Tierney for £25 million. However, the team is hampered by that departure massively. Celtic tried to replace that with a £2 million Greg Taylor, a £3 million ball and goalie. Unfair, unrealistic,
Yep.
not progressive. Celtic also, for me, I know this, like, I don't claim to be at ITK. Well, I say I know it. It could
Oh
be
no, here we
shite.
go.
But I was told this anyway, you know, that apparently Celtic, every summer, their remit is to budget, over the last decade anyway, because there was no guaranteed Champions League, like there is this year, which makes it a unique summer. But basically their budget was to budget for the Europa League. Anything else was on top. So everything Celtic did was within the boundaries of Europa League cash money as opposed to Champions League cash money, Reegan, which brings its own limitations in a way. And I think brings its frustrations to guys like Rodgers, Reegan, who's sitting there going, but we've just qualified for the Champions League 2 years in a row. Bring me in X, Y, and Z. I'll qualify for the third year. The team will be stronger, and then we go again. You'll rake all that money back in over 2 legs. Instead, we didn't. Instead, we had, I think Boycie wanted out at the time. He refused to play against the EK. Brendan Rodgers said things like Terminado. Before you knew it, there was disarray, mate. There was a lack of va-va-voom. And I think the thing is with the summer, this is another important factor, is we can't rest on our laurels. So we'd had an invincible season, then a second treble, so a double treble, mate, right? Nobody could believe it. And yet we went into the third season sort of on rocky roads. Like, you could tell the manager was pissed off. You could tell the fans were getting they were beginning to question, how did we not get John McGinn? Celtic, as you rightfully pointed out at the very start of this debate, mate, are in a position of strength. We have to capitalise on that this time, Reegan, don't you think?
Yep. And I don't mean to be a slight on Scottish football, but you said this before, Russell, and we spoke about it. To me, the be-all and end-all for Celtic as a football club shouldn't just be to topple Scottish football, should be to invest, to make a mark on the European stage. And that brings us nicely on to the next point. Because I want to ask the people in the comments, obviously Celtic getting into the top table of the Champions League, it matters a lot to the board. But I mean, obviously it matters to the board because they're getting 40 million quid. But as a supporter, it's so good just to watch the best players in Europe be at Celtic Park and see what Ange can do at Celtic Park and get possibly against like Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona. You know, it's something that Celtic fans have missed for so long. And even if we don't qualify through the first or second place, which I'm hoping they do, but if they don't, then they've still got the second competition, which we've seen by Rangers have done so well this year. So I don't think that we should try and stop ourselves from achieving in Europe. Because I think Ange Postecoglou, right, as much as domestic success is good for him, I think Ange is saying, right, see what Rangers done. That is whetting my appetite. You know what I mean? It's whetting my appetite to go. We are going to go all for this. I've got a better team than Rangers. You know, people are saying, "Oh, Rangers are a great team. They've done so well." Right? This Celtic team finished in front of Rangers.
Yep. Yep.
So
I think for me, Reegan, it's great talking about financial disparity, which became a bit of a catchphrase, didn't it? You know, over the
Yeah.
last decade. And I think the board are quite, see if I'm honest, I think quite eager, mate, for that to be the narrative. It was giving them a free pass for underachieving in Europe, mate.
yeah, I mean,
It's been blown apart, Reegan. Blown apart. Not by us, but we have to accept it. The argument has been blown apart by the team in blue. They've blown that argument apart.
I mean, I'm just going to give you an example, right? And I don't mean to bring it back, but I'm telling you right now, every single Rangers player in that squad was on the cheap. It just shows you that we don't need to go and spend money. I mean, Rangers' biggest asset and they missed the penalty in the final during the week. Did they get the guys on 400 grand a week? You better
Yep.
be you better be Gordon Ramsay on penalties than Aaron Ramsay. You know.
Reegan, I love that, mate. I think this is the thing. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is not about the finances in terms of Ange must sign 5 guys of 6 million plus. No. Ange must identify 5 players. Say it's 5 players, that's hypothetical as well, by the way. But let's say it's 5 players Postecoglou wants to add to the squad, Reegan. See his top 5, go get them. That's what there is, and I don't care, Reegan. If that means they all are £6 million, so be it. But I don't think the remit, Reegan, has to be about how much they are, how much their wages are.
No.
I think Ange will identify players, Reegan, based on Celtic's financial structure. He's not going to hand them a list with Mbappe on it. Do you know what I mean? The list he hands them is going to have 5 players on it. He thinks are all realistic, and he's 5 main ones. And for me, Celtic's job as a board is to start making the business side aid the football team and not the football team aid the business. Because what we actually ended up with in the last decade, whilst we underachieved in Europe, again, I'll say it, spectacularly shown up this season by what Rangers have achieved in Europa League. But on top of that, mate, 3 years of qualifying for the Champions League in 10 years. But guess what, Reegan? Guess what? See, in those 10 years, the best paid CEO in UK football was Mr. Peter Lawwell, because he kept the balance sheets right, mate. And if you're focusing on the business and not what's happening on the park, that's not how a football club is meant to run. I've never ran a football club, but I am pretty sure the remit of a board is to make sure you have given all the tools to make the best possible team on the park. That's what a football club is the team. And then the business is there to aid that, Reegan. And of course be self-sufficient. But by being self-sufficient doesn't mean you need to have huge, vast sums of money in there so that you hit your KPIs and you're getting £3 million wages and stuff like that for being a CEO in Scotland. No. We couldn't afford £300,000, Reegan. Extra 300,000 for John McGinn from a CEO that was getting paid more in a year than what the transfer fee was that Hibs wanted for John McGinn. That has to stop. This time, it's about not focusing on how much is this player. Oh, Ange, whoever Ange's top 5 targets are, Celtic must do their damnedest, Reegan, to go get them.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to take you back to the scouting in the club. Obviously, the scouting in the club when Neil Lennon was in charge was not the best, because I remember that an interview that Neil Lennon did when he spoke about John Joe Kenny and how he tracked him for 2 years, and it was great, right? It was well, he done so well, but this was a John Joe Kenny that Celtic brought in at midnight, when everything was so rushed and the fans were going crazy because there were so many points behind. And what I think now as a club, Celtic need to learn to stand up and be a big club and not operate in a bad way. Because as much as people don't want to admit it, but that 10 and when Celtic were going for 10 tails in a row, Russell, everything from top to bottom of the club was absolutely wrong. From the scouting to Neil Lennon coming out with so many quotes to Dermot Desmond saying that he was always going to back Neil Lennon because he deserved it when he was 21 points behind. You've got so many things that it's wrong. It was totally wrong, and Celtic as a club need to stand up now.
Yeah.
It's a bit rich for me telling somebody to stand up, Russell, but I think it's important that the club do that.
See, that is patter. That is patter. Reegan, that's too good. I'm on the spot now. That's good. That is very good. But Reegan, I think getting back to what the original point's about, it is, we always go into the money conversation. We can't help it now because I think it's been drilled into us. Now, the banner below so cleverly says, what does it mean as a Celtic fan to get back there? And I see Phil McGinley in the in the comments saying, he doesn't want Messi coming away saying Celtic Park's best atmosphere I've ever played in. It's time to make it a cauldron again, Reegan. And I think give the fans that experience, mate. Give it that experience where it's, okay, you'll never forget it, but that's because you were shitting yourself for 90 minutes. And I believe we used to be able to do that. I do think it's became a wee bit neutered, mate, if I'm honest to you. And I think from us fans, how amazing would it be, Reegan, to go into this group stage, knowing your manager's been backed over the summer, and going in there, a couple of games into the league season, by the way, before we play our first European game. So we're in flow, we're getting into our groove. And imagine going, let's say, for example, AC Milan in the first game, mate, right? Let's just say it's them, and it's at Celtic Park. How amazing a feeling would it be, Reegan, to go, Kim, I'm feeling, Reegan, I'm 50-50 on this. I think we might stuff them. Because I don't think I've felt like that against a big gun in Europe for a long, long time.
But I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this, but I think it's a problem right the way through the club that they kind of accept this as a mentality issue from like, we Celtic as a club shouldn't be there, so we set our standards that low that we don't expect it. But I think now as a club that Ange Postecoglou, I don't think Ange Postecoglou will accept Celtic going there to make up the numbers. Ange Postecoglou will be in that dressing room. He'll be saying to these players, "Do you want to go out there and be remembered by these fans for doing something very special? Well, go out there and show me." Ange will be sitting there going, right, well, just go out there and do your best and see financial disparity. Fuck financial disparity.
Exactly.
You need to be open and transparent and say, Celtic fans don't want to go to Celtic Park, as Phil says, and get beat 7-0 by Mbappe, or Real Madrid or whatever else, But and it's like, I'm going to go back to Rangers in the European run. Every single time Rangers played at home this year, everybody thought, right, Rangers go 1-0 down away from home, but when they go back to Ibrox, Rangers are going to win. That was the attitude they had.
Yep. I agree. And I think when you watch some of their games in Europe, I'm sorry, they made Ibrox more intimidating than what we've made Celtic Park. Whether we like it or not, we have to be honest, Reegan. That's the thing. And I know it upsets folk when you say stuff like that, but it's the genuine truth. You go there, you watch their games at home, and you went, that looks tough to play at. You know, obviously we beat them there, right enough, don't get me wrong. But we're top side, you know. But you've seen other teams go there and they were a wee bit like, I think a wee bit caught with their pants down, shall we say, a wee bit rabbit in headlights sort of vibes, Reegan. And I think we need to get back to that very much. But Kaiser HTTC comes in, Reegan, and he says, Reegan says, stand up for Celtic. I want that as a t-shirt, Boycie.
There you go.
That was good, Pat, mate. That's the moment of the day, definitely. That's sorted. I just think, Reegan, the disparity thing, let's not say financial disparity. Let's talk about this as in a sporting context, which I think your original point was about, mate. Because you're going for the fans, you just want to see your team compete, don't you? Now, are you honestly telling me that Celtic team under Strachan that made the last 16 2 years in a row, mate, genuinely didn't have players that were a million miles off Europe's elite then? The exact same amount of miles, not more now, not less now, the same amount of miles. I mean, you're looking at Paul Telfer, you're looking at Gary Caldwell and McManus were a centre-half partnership, mate, and got us into the last 16 of the Champions League twice. You're genuinely getting convinced, you're getting mind-tripped into, oh, the Gulf now is just huge, though. I'm sorry, Gulf was always there.
Scott McDonald scored against Man U and put us 1-0 up. And
Milan.
Aye. And we had Chris Commons score against Spartak Moscow to put us 2-0 up. So you try to tell me that Rio Hatate is a worse player than Chris Commons? I mean, come on. I mean, Chris Commons has not done anything. He's left Celtic. All he's done is talk rubbish with the club.
No, I get you. It's strange. I think we need a wee bit of belief again in Europe. I think there's been different ideologies about this as well, though, Reegan. I think you're right when you said, I'm just going to be going in there going, oh, you know, it's nice to be here, nice to see you nice, and we'll collect the foot. But I do believe a lot of the players that signed for Celtic, under Rodgers in particular, were brought in on the basis of, you know, even going back as far as when Van Dijk joined first time round under Lenny. I think that just very quick. I think we'd sign players though very much going, look, you'll get good exposure in the Champions League and you'll probably get a move, rather than signing and going, we're going to make a dent in the Champions League. By the way, if I get this team together the way I want it, you're going to be key to making a dent in this competition. I think they were all just signed to go, well, you're in the shop window there, mate. You know what I mean? You're here, we'll get scalped, but at least you're there because you'll probably get a big move on the back of it. Scary.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it in terms of Jota. I'm convinced, right? Everybody's saying Jota's a fantastic player. He's going to do well and stuff. He's going to be for big money. But I'm convinced that Jota is such in love with the club, the fans, and he's got the work ethic that Ange wants. I don't think Jota's going there and going, right, if I do well here, I'm going to move to Barcelona.
Definitely not. Totally agree with that.
Jota's coming in to go, right, I want to do well for Celtic because I believe Celtic should be there. And next first, I want you to bring up the comment from Giacomakis, if you don't mind.
Of course, mate. Of course, let's do it.
Yep, so that's a comment from Giacomakis talking about Jota. Now, I just want to get a thoughts on this because for me it just shows how close the players are as a squad and how Ange Postecoglou has all of a sudden brought the mentality back, the feel good factor, I don't know, just the overall the confidence in the Celtic support. Because I'm going to be honest, right? See, when Celtic they were playing in Champions League with Brendan Rodgers' team, it was kind of like beat on, and you were kind of like, oh, here we go, like what are we going to do here? But with Ange's team, you're quite excited, and you go, I don't think Ange Postecoglou is a manager that is going to go, right, we're going to go in here and see how we do. He's going to say to this board, right, I want to go in here and see do the best we possibly can. No, no, I'm not saying Brendan didn't, but I'm saying I think there's a kind of inner confidence from Ange that he can do things in a small budget and he can get things out of these players. Whereas I think because Brendan's, I'm not saying arrogance, but like he's been around the English Premier League for years and he's kind of like Celtic. No, you know, people kind of bought in that Brendan was this fan and like, like he travelled over when he was younger. I don't believe Brendan was a fan.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
No,
But
but what I'm trying to say is that when people bought into this, Brendan, Brendan was a saviour and he was going to do well in Europe. But as a Celtic support, I think we should believe we should believe more in Ange than Brendan.
Well, I don't think it needs to be so much as that. My guess is with this team that will separate Ange's for Rodgers' team, Reegan, is I think they'll be signed on the basis of Ange's saying to every player that's signed so far. I think you can see it in the team. I think you can see it by Chaos's comments to Jota, how much he's invested in this emotionally, Reegan. Ange's signing players, mate, to say, this is where you're going to now play your football. He's not signing players going, this is where you're going to play for the next year or so, and then we'll get you a move on. My hunch is that the likes of Dembele, Edouard, Encham, Aya, no, not Aya, that's a lie. The other three, though, that I've just mentioned, I think they were all signed, mate, on the basis of Stepping Stone FC. I think they were signed as going, do well here a couple of years and you'll get a move on. Whereas I think you're seeing comments like this coming from Giakoumakis to Jota and potentially Jota now signing on permanently because Ange's selling Celtic to them, not selling them on their career. That may well, you know, that the career will come. You know, see if you do well at Celtic, there's an inevitable move will come. But we don't need to sell ourselves at that when we're trying to attract players, Reegan, because that gives them one eye. That gives them one eye on the wrong prize from the get-go. I want them fully invested in who it is they've joined on a permanent deal, earning their wages every week, and becoming Celtic proper Celtic players. And then, if a move comes, they've got a bit of contemplation to do. But I don't want it to be, has anyone come in for me yet? Because that's we played 3 Champions League games.
I mean, I'll give you an example. It's not made public news, but I was told a few years ago that Brendan Rodgers come in for McGregor at Leicester. So, like, for McGregor, you know, I don't think McGregor's be all and end all is going to the Premier League. You know, like just because it's not on Sky Sports News, that doesn't mean there's been interest in Celtic players. Obviously, there's going to be interest, but I think people like McGregor, Jota, Giakoumakis, they don't want to make a stamp at Celtic, not a stamp at Burnley or Southampton or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I totally agree. I think Ange Postecoglou as well he's got this different mindset where he can sit there and go, look, mate, I've been at a World Cup. I've won the Asian Cup with the national team. I've won the J-League, which is a far more probably cash-rich league than the Scottish League, for example. I've been at these corners of the world. I've came to Celtic. I've been blown away by this. You'll be blown away too. There's the contract. Sign it, you prick. And I think that'll be how it goes. Like, you don't know how lucky you are to be joining us. I think that'll be Ange's sort of mindset when he's negotiating. I think he'll be going, take it or leave it, because you won't sign for anyone better this summer. And if it really is, mate, Crystal Palace that you're looking at, for example, I'm just throwing that out there, good luck. Yeah. Enjoy. But we'll be in the Champions League, regardless whether you come or not. But to me, you're the lucky one here. We're not the lucky ones. And I think that we'll see. That shows, in my opinion, a huge shift, Reegan, from where we were before, where it was, oh, we'd be really grateful if you signed him. We promise if a big club comes in, you'll get your move in 2 years or in a year's time. That mindset seems to be far removed from what I'm seeing for Postecoglou so far.
It's like if you see Ange last week, he's cried on the park. And I think the big thing for me is, Russell, I think he's now in a place where he thinks, right, these people are as passionate about football and is it about European football, Champions League, as much as I want to be. That's just where he wants to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know people talk about Brendan and stuff
2
like that,
seconds, mate.
but this is exactly where Ange wants to be. So for Celtic, I think they're in a great position, and in terms of the players, I think we've not been in a better place for a number of years. Because as Russell said about people like John McGinn and things like that, I think if the board don't back Ange, then they'll be sorry they didn't, because Ange will be off to a place that will back him.
I think that's a brilliant point as well. We need to protect our own biggest asset at Celtic right now. You know, everyone's focusing on, have we got Jota or Cameron Carter-Vickers permanently yet? Let's be completely honest here, Reegan.
The biggest asset of the club is the manager. That's what.
Well, there's where I'm going, Reegan, because Postecoglou's on a rolling contract right now, mate. How much would he cost for admiring other clubs to sign at this moment in time in this summer?
Yep.
1 year's wages, mate. That's all it is. So we need to go back. Sorry, Reegan. We need to go back to 4-year deals like we did with Rodgers. We got £9 million. That, to me, okay, it was shit that he left, but you were compensated for it properly. We need to make sure we've got that at the very, very least in place if there ever were to be a situation that arose that Postecoglou could leave.
And don't let people try and tell you otherwise, but a lot of clubs will be looking at Ange right now and going,
Of course they will.
This guy has turned the club around in so much. I know Rangers fans will be in the comments saying, well, this league title doesn't matter because we won the Scottish Cup, you know. That's the most important trophy of the season or so.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that, aye? Scottish Cup's the biggest trophy in the world, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate.
Have you not heard about that, aye?
Aye, mate. I mean, who cares about league titles when you've
Who
got
cares
Scottish
about leagues
Cup?
this year? Scottish Cup, aye?
No, I get that. I mean, I suppose with regards to the Scottish Cup final yesterday, I felt very meh. Didn't bother me either way, mate. Who won it? We weren't in it. You know, it was a case of, you know, that trophy we've dominated for years and years. And like I say, I will hopefully becoming more concerned next season about European football because we are making a fist of it, Reegan, than I will be about Scottish Cups and League Cups. I'm going to live, Reegan, hopefully another, 10 years. I'm really kidding. I think I'll, say I've got 30 years, 40 years left in the tank. Realistically, how many Scottish Cups and League Cups am I going to see us win? Hunters. The league I'll never get sick of winning. Right? And I want to win it for the next 30, 40 years in a row, if we possibly could. That would be perfect. But in terms of the Cups, I know over the next 30, 40 years, I'll see us win it hundreds of times, right? Loads of times. But in Europe, I'm not so sure. When will be my next Seville moment? When will I be an actual adult? I was only, Seville 15. You know, I had my computing standard grade the next day. I remember it. When will, though, the next time Reegan be that we're in a European final? When
Next
will that
season.
be? That excites me, though. Do you know what I mean? I want the Scottish Cup final for not in it, for me not to be bothered. Because, do you know what? Say it was even a semi-final and we got put out, but it was a great game and we competed. I would love that. I would love to go, right, now we are back. Because for me, the league is always your bread and butter prize. It comes first. But second to that now for me, if Celtic really want to progress, and as you say, from a position of strength, rather than looking over their shoulder, this time actually focus on themselves, then for me the benchmark will be how we compete in the Champions League first and foremost, and if we were to drop to the Europa League, how much of a dent we make in that. I don't think our progress as a football club or as a team under Ange Postecoglou can be defined by another League Cup success or Scottish Cup success.
No.
Just my opinion on that.
No, because if you think about it as well, Celtic as a club deserve to be there. Celtic as a club. You know, I know people will talk about Rangers winning yesterday, but Rangers have not won a cup for years and years and years. Celtic have won quadruple trebles. You know, I'm not being ungrateful and saying that the Scottish Cup, but I'm saying that inside the club, you should think, right, well, we've got a lot of Scottish Cups, so, you know what I mean? It's not the be all and end all.
We've seen it. We've seen the movie a million times, and yeah, absolutely agree with you that it's brilliant, the treble years, mate. They have been brilliant, but it's time to evolve again. It's time to start setting our sights on even bigger fish. And like I say, I feel, if I'm completely honest to you, my viewpoint on Europe has been only amplified by the success from the other team. I don't deny it. I'm not going to sit in
No,
denial, mate,
no.
and slag them off for making a final and losing it. An extra on penalties, sorry. It's really not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was delighted, and I can't deny that. I really couldn't have bared them to win. No
No,
offence, just the facts. But what I will say, Regan, is it whetted my appetite and maybe
yeah,
actually
it did me as
frustrated
well.
me. It frustrated me a wee bit as well, Regan, going, well, how have they managed that? See, when you actually look at how many years they've competed in Europe in the last 14. I know it's 14 years since the last appearance, but what would you say? Four of those seasons were in the lower leagues. They weren't even in Europe. So it's 2 finals in 10 years. You know, I throw in obviously getting popped out by a team for Luxembourg in the midst of it. Don't forget
Oh,
that one, Bob McBob. But I just feel, Regan, that has made me start to. Piqued my interest again in Europe. It's made me look closer at Celtic as well over the last decade. I went, well, wait the now. Wait the now. We were told that was impossible, essentially. No, it wasn't.
right. So I'll play devil's advocate. Do you think the mentality of the club played into your mind? Do you think that you bought into this whole psyche that Celtic shouldn't be getting to you? You a trophy for European football.
100%. 100%. I think we all have been duped a wee bit by it. I
Yep,
think we all
I
have. I
agree with
think we've
that.
all been guilty of being duped
Totally
by it.
agree with that.
The term financial disparity, mate, that became all thrown across the media. And of course, the thing was, whilst they were in their formative years or their recovery years, whatever way you want to look at it, I don't care. There was no comparison for Celtic at the time. So these wee narratives getting fed to the media, financial disparity and we can't compete at that level, etc. Because there was no comparison from Scotland at that time, it was an easy narrative to be swallowed. Now there is a comparison, and I'm sorry, but what Rangers have done in Europe, even the year before, I thought their performances in Europe were chalk and cheese from ours, if I'm completely honest. That really has been eye-opening. And I think for us, we've got to be looking at that, not to be focused on other teams, but we've got to look at that still and go, it's a direct comparison because they operate in the same environment we do. Now, a lot of people say, well, they've spent far too much money and they don't have that money. Either way, when you look at the fees they've paid out for that starting 11 in that Europa League final on Wednesday, that was all perfectly within Celtic's capabilities. So
Yeah,
forget what debt they're in, Regan. Look at their man for man. That starting 11 in the Europa League was well within Celtic's capabilities financially. In fact, probably more so. In fact, we could have probably had a more expensively assembled team. Yet the achievements ain't there.
yeah. I mean, look at somebody like James Tavernier or John Lewisham, who everybody talks about as being Rangers' standout player in Europe. James Tavernier was 200 grand, and John Lewisham got relegated from the Premier League,
Yep.
the Premier League last year. So, you know, you don't need to go out there and spend millions to compete. You just need someone that's a, a workhorse and tries their best and whatever. You
Yeah.
know, I think this narrative, like you say, is wrong because you look at, I think it was Trabzonspor that beat Real Madrid 3-1, and Real Madrid are going to the Champions League final.
Mm-hmm.
Trabzonspor beat Real Madrid 3-1 at the Bernabeu in the group stages. You're telling me Trabzonspor are a better team than Real Madrid? No way.
And when was the last time, cheers Lanky, When was the last time, Reegan, we had one of those scalps? And like I was saying earlier, and I go back to it a wee bit, bud, because I'm like, I don't know why I sounded like Alan McInally there. I'll go back to it, bud. But like, a good close personal friend of mine in the Bundesliga, in Germany, in Bayern, in Munchen. Good, bud. No, but genuinely, I just think, Reegan, when was the last time we went into a game feeling like we could cause one of those scalps, let alone getting a scalp, but feeling like we could get a scalp?
Spartak Moscow when Samaras scored the 3-2 game, 3-2.
Yep, that was big.
Spartak Moscow away. Maybe even the Barcelona one when they scored last minute to beat us 2-1.
Yep, I felt we could have got something for that game. I'll tell you an interesting story about that though, Reegan.
On you go.
So that was the Tuesday that game was, right? And I left the boozer absolutely gutted, sick, because Barcelona had scored in the last minute, right?
Same here.
So on the Thursday, it's the Europa League, and back then I used to like a wee flutter. I don't anymore. I don't gamble at all. Fuck that. But I went to put a coupon on the Europa League, Reegan, and I look at my balance on my Willie Hill account sitting at £1,250, and I'm like, what's happening here? Turns out Stephen Bhoycie bet against his own team. I don't even remember doing this. I bet Samaras to score first at the Nou Camp.
What? Oh
Barcelona to win 2-1. £2.50 bet, mate. And I left the pub spewing that night. See, if I'd known, I'd have been leaving the pub going, where am I going next?
Oh, God.
But genuinely, that is like, so it's my biggest ever win. And I didn't know for 2 days that I'd done it. Mental, eh?
Oh, brilliant, aye, because it's like you say, you'd have probably left the pub spewing, but then waking up going,
well, no, two days. 2 days, mate. It was a Thursday night, so that game was a Tuesday. Felt sick, just went straight home. Raging. Thursday night, I was like, I'll stick a wee coupon on. It was about 6 o'clock. There was 3 folks sitting in the pub. I owned the pub at the time. I was sitting there and I was like, any of you want a drink? And they were like, why? I went, because I've just won £1,250. I didn't even know about it for 2 days. Good. So, aye, thank you, Barcelona.
Thank you, but not thank you.
I know, mate.
No, so we're going to move on to the next talking point, Russell, and it's about Scott Brown.
Yeah, mate, I like this one. That you brought up. This is very clever.
Aye, so Scott Brown said in his interview with Fleetwood Town that he would be going back to the Scottish Premiership to bring in players. And I was just thinking, who in the Celtic squad would benefit from playing in Scott Brown's team? And for me, it's Mikey Johnson. What do you make of this, Russell?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Johnston, it's very much now sink or swim time for him. And I don't mean swim in terms of he's going to get a first team opportunity next year. He's too far down the pecking order.
Yep.
The only way for Johnston to get Angie's attention is by thriving as a first team regular at another club on loan.
Yep, I mean, just look at, I think it was, remember Celtic took Ayer to Rugby Park. He went there for 2 years and then come back a really good player. So I think Johnson, I'm sorry to say this to him, but I don't think he's up to the level. And I think Celtic should be looking to get Johnson out because he's not producing much and he's always injured. That's why I was so downbeat last week when the club signed James Forrest to a new contract for another 4 years. I just don't get it.
Okay, I think there's a couple of takeaways for that, Reegan. I've got another counter question as well, which is quite interesting.
On you go then, on you go.
So, I think League One, for a lot of SPFL games, like the Premier League, the Premiership as it's called now in Scotland, I think League One in England is pretty comparable.
Yes.
Okay? With a lot of the games. I don't mean all the games, but I certainly think maybe 60% of our top flight games are on a par, shall we say, with League One. However, how many players can you name that we've loaned out to League One, League Two clubs in England that have ever managed to come back and make an impact at Celtic? Callum
McGregor.
McGregor's the only one, right? The only one. Yet, if Mikey Johnson were to be loaned to an Aberdeen, to a Hibs, to a Dundee United, right? Instead of a Fleetwood Mac, is that who Scott Brown's took over? Oh, looking. Fleetwood Town. I mean, if he were to go down there, does that, even if he does well, so say, let's just say he finishes the season, Reegan, with 15 goals, 10 assists. 15 goals, 10 assists at Aberdeen, or 15 goals, 10 assists at Fleetwood Town. What one catches the manager's eye more?
Fleetwood Town for me.
Disagree. I think he'll be more in focus if he's at Aberdeen. Not because I'm saying, by the way, I'm not saying it's a better standard. I'm really not. I just think when it's happening under your nose, it might give you a better chance of catching the manager's attention than when it's down south. I could be completely wrong on that.
I don't think it matters because Scott Brown will have his contact at Celtic, and I think he'll be probably talking to Ange and saying, "Look, Mikey's doing well, or somebody's doing well." So I don't think it's a big problem.
No, I don't think it's a problem either. I'm just thinking, what one is more likely though to trigger a reaction from
Ange.
Celtic? Aye, from Ange, and I don't know why. I've just got this mad feeling that I look at the Ryan Christie example. You know, it's going, that really worked, that loan deal. If Ryan Christie had been at Fleetwood Town for those 18 months, 2 years, I don't know. Even if he'd done just as well, I just am not convinced he would be in the reckoning like he was. And I know there was a bit of fortune in him becoming a first team player, but I don't know.
There you go, Russ. I've just thought of an idea. We could take a Boycie bus down to Fleetwood's in Blackpool.
Let's do it.
Take a Boycie bus down there. Get the double decker down there, Russell, and take us down to see Scott Brown.
I like this idea, mate. I'm game. Let's go on a world tour, Reegan, mate. But I think, seeing a larger point about this, I think it's brilliant that you even thought of this, because I hadn't even tied in the Scott Brown thing on any of the shows I've done this week, so I think it's brilliant that you even thought of that. And it's good because Scott Brown does have inside knowledge at Celtic, and he'll have his own players he's thought, I think he's a baller and he doesn't get a chance in the first team, he might be available. But then add on to that, he's got all the contacts at Celtic, literally in his phone book. He'll be on first name terms with and go, you know, if you send them to work with me, that they'll be worked. You know they're going to improve. I think he's got very good insight as to who can and can't cut it. And I think you'll see that by who he targets. But I also think he's got this extra access because he knows us all. He knows everyone at the club from top to bottom, mate.
Yeah.
He's phoning. It's like he'll be talking to his pal, going, "So can we get him or fucking not?" You know what I mean? And I think under Scott Brown's tutoring at a very competitive level like League One, it'd be a brilliant experience for the likes of Mikey Johnson. I just want to go to Brian Galt's point, Reegan. I'm not trying to take over here, but I just want your thoughts on this. He's bringing up another player a wee bit on the periphery, Karamoko. What's your thoughts on him?
It makes me sad, Russell. You know, I think Karamoko's a good player, but I don't think he'll sign a new deal, Brian, because it's been too long. You know, if this was me at Celtic and I was there for 3 to 5 years and not get a game, I'd be the first person off.
Yeah.
You know, because as Celtic supporters, we are down to see him. And see for Karamoko and people around Karamoko, they'll be so desperate for him to see him. But see if you're Karamoko's family at the moment, you're saying, right, Karamoko, you've been there for 3 or 4 years, I don't know how long, but you've still not got a chance. And Ange Postecoglou's taking this squad into Champions League. So you'd be, see if it was me advising Karamoko, I would say no, because for me, he deserves to play, because no disrespect to him, but I don't think he's going to get ahead of Jota or Abada or someone that we bring in.
Aye. I mean, the thing is with Karamoko's had a lot of hype, and I know one of the comments is saying all I've seen from him is hype. But I also go back to last summer, Regan, that Ange was trying to include him from the get-go in the pre-season. It actually wasn't Karamoko's fault he wasn't featuring this season. It genuinely was a bad injury, mate.
I just mean genuinely he's got Maeda now. He's got Kyogo who can play it wide. He's got Abada. He's got Jota. Last summer Celtic had Owen Moffat playing left wing
I know.
and James Forrest. So I think now he's in a difficult position because if you're advising the guy, you're saying, well, obviously Celtic is a good platform because you're playing at a very good level, but for him to develop as a player, it's best that he goes.
I think there's an aspect to that. Here's my take on it. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago as well. My take on it is, Regan, he had 1 year to go last summer, right? And Ange wanted to use him in pre-season, right? Wanted to, I think. I know what you're saying about, well, he didn't have many options at that time, and I get that. I also think Ange isn't daft. He went, I know who Karamoko Dembele is before I came to Celtic, because everyone in the world did. He was one of the highest rated prospects in world football. That's not an exaggeration, that is a fact. Now, what's happened is he had a year left on his deal last summer, and unfortunately, Regan, that injury scuppered him pre-season. If it were me, I would say to Karamoko, look, mate, your stock's hardly grown in the last 5 years. Who realistically are you going to go to? A Premier League's under 23 side, and you could get forgotten about there. Or, how about we just push the reset button, right? We give you a 1 year extension, and we just play this out as it was this time last year. Now the injuries got done and dusted, you've got 1 more year here, and we've got one more year to look at you, and you've got 1 more year of potentially getting into the first team. And if so, we'll review it as the season goes on. Because that was the plan this time last summer. Yep. And I think it'd be very fair if we went, that injury wasn't on you. It was a shocking tackle, actually, in a pre-season match. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
It was a shocking challenge. And I think that would be a very, very clever and cute way of Celtic to do their business. Is say, look, the options out there for you, Karamoko, we know, aren't what they were maybe 4 years ago, right? So there's not that big a draw for you to leave. And you were willing to do another year with us this time last summer. Why don't we just reverse back to what we were? There's another year on the table, and we just do that all over again. That just to me makes business sense, mate.
Yeah, hope he does, but I don't think he will. But I think he's a very talented player, so I hope he does. But I'm just thinking if the people who are talking to him maybe would say something different.
Well, there's Hill Times 2 coming in. Give him the offer of another year, make a break. I just totally get that. I think that, for me, is just sensible. And I also think as well, it's one of those good faith things as well. And it shows Celtic to be a club that are thinking a wee bit deeper. And it's going, do you know what? Karamoka Dembele, right? See, in the years he was meant to shine, I'm sorry, but Neil Lennon was his manager in those years. The years before that, he was too young to impact the first team under Rodgers, albeit Rodgers gave him his debut. But the years you thought the breakthrough might happen, he was under a manager, mate, that was never going to progress his career. I'm sorry. The coaching and development you need for an elite young player like that in his formative years, we didn't have that guy. Sorry, that's the harsh reality. We now do again. I think we give him another year, mate.
Yeah, because I agree with you there. I mean, Neil Lennon depends on older, experienced players and people that can get the job done. And I think when you're in a position like that, it's kind of like you're kind of holding the young players back as well. Whereas I think Ange is a perfect kind of manager. I mean, you look at the players that he's brought in. You've got Maeda, who's 24. You've got a lot of the players are like 22, 21.
He's 24. You're looking at Greg Taylor, 23, I think. You're looking at Ralston, 22. Carter Vickers, 23. It's a very young team, Reegan.
Yep. I quite like this point. Someone saying he's still 18. I didn't know he was still 18.
19.
19. Yep. I mean, that's honestly, that's news to me. I thought he was like maybe 20, 21.
He's
So,
just been around forever, mate. He's just been around forever. I think this is what then you get back to. You go, the reason we've known about Karamoka Dembele, we're almost like using against him in a way, which is really fucked up, Regan, because it's like, oh, well, he's never lived up to his hype. But the reason there was so much hype about a 13-year-old laddie is because he was that good. I just don't think we can be in a position, mate, where we can just be letting these guys go because of miscoaching for 2 years and then an injury for the last year. I just think it's unfair.
so you think part of the problem was that maybe we bought Karamoka Dembele too early on in his career? Because I'm going to give you an example. See if we'd have bought Karamoka as a 20-year-old, I don't think there'd be as much pressure on him as there was when we bought him as a 14-year-old.
I think we've got to be honest though here, Regan. The pressure that came with Karamoka and Dembele was based on what he was doing on a football pitch, mate.
Yep.
And it came the fact that he made his under-16 debut for Scotland, mate, when he was 13. You know, that's sending shockwaves out. That's not on Celtic. That's just because he was that good. He made his reserve team debut. Celtic reserves, mate, when he was 14, 15. This guy was too good, mate. And then you got to look at the last 3 years as a whole and say, one manager that was going to guide him and gave him the extension, gave him the long-term deal, that, by the way, Karamoka sure he was committed to by signing, when Karamoka Dembele 100% had interest from all across, not just the UK, but Europe at that time, committed to Celtic under a manager he felt would benefit his career, Brendan Rodgers. Then what happens? Neil Lennon comes in, doesn't have that vision, doesn't have the coaching technique, and he goes stale. But bear in mind, we're judging him on the years he was, 17 and 18. He's went stale. This is ridiculously harsh. Then he's 19, and Postecoglou, who's got two very wide open eyes, goes, I'll have a look at him in the first team, please. And he gets a shocker of injury. A shocker of an injury. And that's how he spent the last 10 months. Are we really going to base those last 3 years and go, oh, he's just a hype machine, etc., and comparing him to Farouz? I think this is completely unacceptable and unfair. For me, as I say, I'm not going to go all in though and go, there's another 5 years, Karamoko. But what I will say very confidently, Regan, is let's push the reset button. Let's go back to where we were last summer and give him another year. Celtic look the good guys in doing that. And Karamoko then has 12 months to prove himself and prove to the perfect manager for him. If Karamoko does live up to his potential, the perfect coach, the perfect mentor is there in position. He doesn't need to look elsewhere. And I think that, for me, it just ticks all the boxes.
I mean, I like this comment in the comments by, I think is it Kieran in the comments. He's put a comment up.
Who's that?
Is Kieran.
Kieran, right.
Yes, he's saying about Ange Postecoglou being the perfect manager for Dembele.
I've lost it. I can see Kieran saying, hope so, Boycie. Where's his other point? Where is his other... Oh. There's so many coming in.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, because I totally agree with this, Russell, that through the Brendan Rodgers era, like you said, he was so young. And I think now Ange Postecoglou's probably went, well, I can get the true potential from this guy. So I think, as you said, I've become more confident over the past half an hour from talking to you about it, because I was kind of unsure. But when I could come on here about an hour ago, but now I'm a bit more sure about possibly giving him a 1-year contract. Plus, you need to remember as well that this is Ange Postecoglou that everybody had written off when Ange gave Tony Ralston a new contract.
Exactly.
Tony Ralston was a guy that was nowhere to be seen.
Reegan, let's talk about that very quickly. So he was given a 1-year extension, just what we're talking about there with Dembele. Within 5 months, he'd signed a, what is that, 4-year deal? 5-year deal? That's the Ange effect. No one else is managing to do that. So why are you telling me if we could do it with Tony Ralston, and with all the love in the world to Tony Ralston, I'm pretty sure Karamoko can do with an orange what Tony Ralston could do with a football. Do you know what I mean? I think he's got all the potential, all the ability in the world. If Ange can get Ralston to the level we've already seen him get to at times this season, on several occasions in fact, what could he do with a fully fit, firing Karamoko Dembele? Come on.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, because I think Tony's been a breath of fresh air. I mean, probably Tony didn't expect himself to get to these levels this
Maybe
season,
not.
because he was probably that much accepting that he was, a lot of the times when Celtic were winning quadruple trebles and trebles of Brendan, that he was sitting there with a suit and tie with Jack Henry and Boyata. He was it was nowhere to be seen. So I think it's very important that Postecoglou's here now as the manager, because Postecoglou is a forward-thinking coach. I just want to bring up one final point, Russell, and
Sure.
that is the impact of Joe Hart.
Okay.
Because Joe Hart was speaking this week about Celtic has kick-started his football again, and for me, I think Joe Hart's influence this season, for me, it can't, like Joe Hart has made such a good impact on the squad. Not just these saving the ball at the net, but his whole impact in the dressing room, from the young players to the young goalies to his attitude around Postecoglou, around everyone, like buying in to all the new players. It's even stuff like, see when I go to every home game, right? Joe Hart is the first person to go up to the opposite goalkeeper. He goes up to the opposite goalkeeper. Like, Celtic played St Johnstone 7-0. The first thing Joe Hart did was go straight up to Zander Clark, speak to him for about 4 or 5 minutes after the game. He done the exact same thing with Seagrass at Dundee United when
Yes.
when they beat us, when Celtic beat them 1-0 in the last minute of the game. And then he done it again when Celtic played Rangers at Celtic Park. I just think that just shows a bit of class from him as well, that he obviously knows that these goalkeepers are very good goalkeepers that are playing in Scotland, and he goes, I'm going to go up and show them a bit of respect.
Yep. And what he always says as well, Reegan, just to tie it in with the Karamoko thing a wee bit, he says he's been learning every day. So if a 35-year-old, 75 times capped goalkeeper can come in and say he's learning every day, what can Karamoko Dembele do every day when he's fully fit and training, Reegan? He can learn.
Yep, and I think the other interesting fact that a lot of Celtic fans should learn over this season is it's never ever a bad thing to have experience in your squad. You know, as much as we all love to see people come in and be young and be athletic and take us on to new levels, it's so important to have people like Scott Brown or Joe Hart or people like that.
Totally agree.
People spoke about the influence of Scott Brown and how difficult it was to replace. Well, I'm going to say that Joe Hart is our Scott Brown influence. He's the old head.
Yep. I still think there's an argument, Reegan, for Celtic to look into bringing someone in their 30s again, even this summer. I think there is an argument to be had there, mate, that, that vibe that we get, it's, as you were talking about earlier, the age of the team, we listed a few players that are of that early 20s sort of age group, and you think, experience is key for these guys. And the influence of Callum McGregor now, he's approaching 29, 29 or 30, Joe Hart, 35, and you're looking at these guys going, there's nothing wrong with having maybe even another one in there in that sort of bracket. I don't mean sign someone for the sake of it just because they're 31. I mean, I'm 34 if they are looking, by the way. But I think realistically you've got to go, maybe another experienced head in there, particularly with the Champions League campaign to contend with. Might not be the worst shout in the world, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good shout because if you look at Joe Hart's influence and McGregor, I don't think it's a bad idea that we should have too many people in there. I mean, the influence that these people could pass on from day to day is so important. I mean,
Yep.
you look at Joe Hart last week when Tony Ralston cleared the ball off the line. He's grabbing him by the throat and he's like, trying to show him how much it means to save that ball and stuff like that. It's just, you know, people can really buy into him. And like Barkas, I mean, last year Barkas, I mean, the guy could save I mean, it was just terrible. He just couldn't
It
save.
was shite.
He just couldn't save anything. I don't think Scott Brown will be looking for Barkas anytime soon. But in terms of Celtic going forward, I think they're in a great position because, as I said to you before, Ange Postecoglou is the most successful manager in Scottish football this season, and so that's something we shouldn't forget. You know, like people will detract and say Rangers' great European run and things like this and Arbroath and things, but don't forget where Ange Postecoglou. This was a guy that came from the J League. Everybody was slagging Celtic to the hilt. You know, there was people from Sky, BT, every radio station in the land was saying, like, do you know Hearts, mate? And he was like, I'm not from a different planet, mate. You know?
Oh, totally.
You know, you can go back to these moments and say, see when Ange came in, Ange was on the back foot in every single aspect.
Yep.
You know, and I heard Trey Levine saying yesterday about that Gio come in mid-season and all this stuff. But what I would say is that Gio had Steven Gerrard's team that was par for the course, and they had done really well in Europe for the past couple of years, and they also done very well in the league. So there's no, and also Gio knew about Rangers. Ange Postecoglou, he was coming in and like, I could have probably got a game for Celtic last year.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, mate.
But I think sometimes we need to sit back and say what has been achieved was probably not expected this year, and something that we shouldn't take for granted because it's as I said 2 weeks ago when I was on, it's probably the sweetest title that Celtic will win, and people trying to detract that because this was the biggest title to win, you know.
Yep.
And don't underestimate how important it was to get that money ahead of Rangers. Also, don't underestimate how important it wasn't that they won that European Cup because they'd have been into pot one.
Yep.
You know, and they'd have got an extra £2 million added on to their money.
Yep.
You know, it makes such a difference, but it only makes a difference if the Celtic board back Ange, they back the club, and they get rid of the small club mentality. But I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been a great show, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and that like button there because it's a great show. And they've got the 6 p.m. session on 6 p.m. tonight, and I'll be tuning in.
5:30 we're coming in, Reegan. We're coming in at 5:30, just so you know. That's not your fault. It's Conor McCann's being a bit of a diva. No, he's got football later, so we are coming on at 5:30 for the Sunday sesh. I'll be joined, I think, Paul McFarlane, Conor McCann, Phil McGinley, and maybe that rascal from Ireland, Terry Robb, if he's not too humble.
Oh, Terry, my favourite.
He's brilliant, eh?
Terry's the man.
He's great. But Reegan, what a show, mate. I've loved that, man. Absolutely loved it. Hopefully, by the way, we've sat over 85 this whole show, by the way.
I mean, that's my 1,000 episodes. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, how have I managed to do that, man?
You're getting unfollowed for that, you bastard.
I mean, I need to sort my calculations out. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've only got 200 episodes on YouTube, but I've got 1,000 shows, don't forget.
Don't forget. Anyway, Reegan, on that note, we will leave you all to it. Have a brilliant night, everyone. Thanks again, Reegan, the host with the most. See you later. And by the way,
guys.
He's still standing.
Stand up.
One of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.